Good afternoon, everybody. Today I'm joined by the Division of Criminal Justice Director, Steve Furketic, Chief of Detectives, Weldon Powell, Acting Prosecutor of Mercer County, and in this context, the Deputy Director of the Division of Criminal Justice, who oversees the Human Trafficking Unit, Teresa Hilton. And I'm also pleased to be joined by Lieutenant Colonel Phil Buck of New Jersey State Police, as well as all of their respective teams from the Division of Criminal Justice and from the State Police, who did extraordinary work on the indictments that I'm about to announce. We're here today to announce the indictments of 7 defendants in connection with 2 separate human trafficking enterprises operating in both North and South Jersey. I think it's important to underscore the locations here because we know that human trafficking knows no boundaries and in fact operates both throughout our state, throughout this country, and indeed across the globe. In the South Jersey case, which came out of Cumberland County, 4 Bridgeton residents, Uziel Luna, who was 42, as well as his alleged co-conspirators, Jose Perez Lopez, age 40, Rosendo Vasquez Hernandez, age 35, and Yerson Puentes Marquez, age 28, were indicted yesterday. The indictment alleges that all 4 defendants, who also engaged in drug trafficking, participated in a human trafficking operation in which women were recruited on the false pretense that they would be working as dancers, but instead they were taken to a Bridgeton home where they were offered for commercial sex. It's alleged that new victims were picked up on a weekly basis from Queens, New York, and from Paterson, New Jersey, and they were taken down to Bridgeton, where they were allegedly forced to perform sex acts on hundreds of men during the week. And while at the house, the victims also allegedly witnessed violent activity. In the Essex County case, 2 suspects were indicted yesterday in connection with the human trafficking of 3 juvenile victims. A 3rd suspect in that case was indicted in August. Newark residents Kyla Meekins, age 21, and her alleged co-conspirator, Dante Barkley, age 28, were indicted after allegedly forcing 2 15-year-old victims and 1 13-year-old victim to perform sexual acts. In this case, the defendants allegedly arranged for the victims to engage in sex acts using smartphone apps and posting online ads including nude photos of the minors. The children victims, and I want to underscore that these were children, were then allegedly taken to short-term rentals and hotels to engage in sex acts. These alleged crimes are a stark reminder as to why we must be steadfast in our goal to end human trafficking in all of its forms. We are, and as long as I'm the Attorney General of this state, will remain committed to pursuing charges against anyone who engages in human trafficking. And our motivation for this work, and I think I speak for everybody who does this work in this room, is simple. We do this work for the victims, for the survivors, for those who deserve justice and dignity, and who deserve to be treated like human beings. We fight for everyone who has not only survived the horrors of human trafficking, but also those who are working to rebuild their lives one step and one day at a time. The Division of Criminal Justice's Human Trafficking Unit was launched nearly 2 years ago, and the vital work of this unit cannot be overstated. When I announced the creation of the Human Trafficking Unit, I explained that the unit had a clear mandate to identify and dismantle human trafficking networks operating in our state and to provide a measure of justice to those who had suffered at their hands. And I'm proud that the unit is doing that work in service of that mission each and every day across New Jersey. Just to give you a sense of the scale of this unit's operations now, since it was created 2 years ago, we now have 11 seasoned litigators and investigators working together to pursue what are often complex human trafficking networks, again, across jurisdictional boundaries. I'm also proud that the New Jersey State Police has significantly increased its human trafficking unit size And our divisional criminal justice team was able to double in size this year as compared to its first year in operation. And with that increase in personnel, we've increased the unit's caseload. This case that we're announcing today is a testament to the Division of Criminal Justice and the New Jersey State Police close collaboration, which have led to these two successful investigations. It's undeniable that the collaboration we have across the state police and with the Division of Criminal Justice has led to what is truly an unprecedented increase in the investigation and prosecution of human trafficking in New Jersey. Put it in perspective, from 2018 to 2022, in 2024, we had more defendants charged or indicted than that were charged or indicted in the entire state of New Jersey from 2018 to 2022. Those are just numbers coming out of the Division of Criminal Justice. So this year alone, more defendants than were charged or indicted in the entire state over a 4-year period. That is a significant increase and a testament to the work that we've been able to do thanks to the increased investment and focus on these horrible crimes. And while the full extent of the problem and the challenge of human trafficking can be difficult to assess, we know that the FBI considers New Jersey to be a hub for this type of activity because of our location, because we're within reach of several major metropolitan areas, including New York, Philadelphia, and Baltimore. But we are fighting back. In addition to our human trafficking unit, our human trafficking task force, which we began in 2005, continues its work coordinating the efforts of state and federal law enforcement agencies, as well as state regulatory departments, advocacy groups, and importantly, social service providers. The information that they share is then used to coordinate and drive both investigations and law enforcement training, as well as victim outreach and our public awareness efforts. But we know that more needs to be done. 2025 is just a few weeks away, and yet we live in a world where some of us look at fellow human beings simply as property. Human trafficking is a crime where victims are often hidden in plain sight, and signs of human trafficking often go unnoticed because the relationship between the trafficker and the victim masquerades as often as a consensual, romantic, or familial relationship, or even sometimes as a legitimate employment relationship. So we must dispel the myths and misconceptions about human trafficking, including this commonly held notion that this is something that only happens to other people. In fact, human trafficking can affect every community across our state and indeed across this country. This misconception limits and hinders our ability to detect human trafficking and to prosecute it. So dispelling these myths is critical because the scope of this problem requires vigilance in every neighborhood, in every town, in every county, in every community, indeed in every state across this country. So in order to increase awareness, I launched a public awareness campaign earlier this year known as STALLS, which stands for Sanctuary from Trafficking, Awareness, and Linkage to Law Enforcement and Services. In particular, I want to thank First Assistant Attorney General in our department, Lindsay Rotolo, for her leadership on this effort. This campaign involves brightly colored posters with information about how victims and bystanders can report suspected human trafficking, and they are now in place in public restrooms across our state. These posters include QR codes and the number for National Human Trafficking Hotline, as well as the New Jersey Human Trafficking Hotline. And they're found in places where we know, tragically, may be the only time that a victim will be alone. Acting Prosecutor Teresa Hilton will have more on this campaign later in the press conference. We're also, and this is really important, working to enhance the services and supports that we make available to victims as they seek to recover and find some measure of justice. It's that need to provide support to victims that led me to create the Division of Violence Intervention and Victim Assistance, better known as VIVA, back in 2022. VIVA brings together our victim services and the department's violence intervention and prevention programming under one roof because it is imperative that we interrupt cycles of violence, and that we give victims a permanent seat at the table. Ridding the world of human trafficking is not an easy task, and not one that we will accomplish alone. But as New Jerseyans, I know that we're in this fight. I'm extraordinarily proud of the dedicated law enforcement personnel and prosecutors, career prosecutors, who have taken on this mission of tackling these truly heinous crimes. And before I turn it over to the Director of the Division of Criminal Justice for his remarks, I want to thank each of the investigators and attorneys involved in today's indictments. From the New Jersey State Police, Lieutenant Anthony Carugno, Detective Sergeant First Class Ricardo Diaz, Detective Sergeant First Class Mark Anthony Mua, Detective Sergeant Mark Wettengel, Detective Sergeant Richard Hersey, Detective 2 Michael Fama, Detective 2 Giselo Machuca, Detective 2 Jason Maloney, Detective 2 Sean Gosring, Detective Cassidy Egan, Detective Shane Furlong, Detective Houston Story, and Analyst Kaylee DeSimone. And from the Division of Criminal Justice, Bureau Chief Laura Magnone, Deputy Attorney General Lisa Queen, Deputy Attorney General Jacqueline Dowd, Deputy Attorney General Amy Hyde, Deputy Chief Kevin Gannon, Sergeant Dave Katona, Sergeant Michael Gonzalez, Detective Brianna Perea, Detective Nadad Ninkovich, and Detective Kara Murphy. I would also like to thank and recognize the Cumberland County Prosecutor's Office for their assistance in today's announcements. You can see these cases are complex and take a village of dedicated personnel and committed public servants to bring these perpetrators to justice. And I'm very grateful for each and every one of them for the work that they've done. I would now like to turn the podium over to Director Furketic, who will share additional details about today's indictments.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Attorney General Platkin. Before I begin, I want to echo General Platkin and thank the incredible team of prosecutors and detectives who worked on the two cases we are discussing today. Both of these matters reflect outstanding collaboration between the Division of Criminal Justice and the State Police's Human Trafficking Team, by prosecutors and detectives working in both the northern and southern parts of the state. I also want to thank the Cumberland County Prosecutor's Office and Prosecutor Webb McCrae for their assistance in the Bridgeton investigation. I want to spend the next few minutes walking you through the allegations contained in the two indictments. In the Essex County case, the indictment alleges that the defendants trafficked teenagers. Specifically, the victims were subjected to physical assault by their traffickers and repeatedly sexually assaulted by strangers. The indictment alleges that the defendants profited from the abuse. The first defendant charged in this case is Kayla Meekins, age 21, of Newark, New Jersey. Meekins is charged with 3 counts of first-degree human trafficking of a minor, 3 counts of first-degree human trafficking to engage in sexual activity by threatening harm, and 1 count of second-degree aggravated assault, among other charges. The maximum sentence on first-degree crime of human trafficking of a minor is 20 years to life imprisonment. The second defendant charged is Dante Barkley, age 28, of Newark, New Jersey. Barkley is also charged with 3 counts of first-degree human trafficking of a minor, among other charges. Again, the maximum sentence on a first-degree crime of human trafficking of a minor is 20 years to life imprisonment. The third defendant, who was previously indicted on August 14th, 2024, is Richard Johnson, age 34, of Irvington, New Jersey. Johnson is charged with 1 count of first-degree aggravated sexual assault, among other charges. In the other case, the indictment alleges that the Cumberland County conspirators recruited women to work as dancers, but then forced these women to remain in a house and be subjected to multiple sexual assaults by strangers. New victims were recruited regularly from Queens, New York, and Paterson, New Jersey. The indictment also alleges that the defendants distributed drugs, including cocaine and methamphetamine. The first defendant charged in the Cumberland County case is Uziel Luna, age 42, of Bridgeton, New Jersey. Luna is charged with 5 counts of first-degree human trafficking, including 1 count in which the defendant is identified as an organizer or supervisor, 1 count of first-degree racketeering, and 1 count of first-degree distribution of methamphetamine, among other charges. The maximum sentence on a first-degree crime of human trafficking as the organizer or supervisor is 20 years to life imprisonment. The second defendant in the case is Jose Perez Lopez, age 40, of Bridgeton, New Jersey. Lopez is charged with 4 counts of first-degree human trafficking and 1 count of first-degree racketeering, among other charges. The third defendant is Rosendo Vasquez Hernandez, age 35, of Bridgeton. Hernandez is charged with 4 counts of first-degree human trafficking, 1 count of first-degree racketeering, and 1 count of first-degree distribution of methamphetamine, among other charges. And the fourth defendant is Yerson Puentes Marquez, age 28, of Bridgeton, New Jersey. Marquez is also charged with 4 counts of first-degree human trafficking, among other charges. The maximum sentence on a first-degree crime is 20 years. Because of the work of the incredible public servants at the Division of Criminal Justice and the New Jersey State Police, the victims of human trafficking in these 2 cases have been liberated. But we know we have more work to do, and I'm continually thankful for the effort that the members of the Division of Criminal Justice's human trafficking team bring to this critically important work every single day. Each member of that bureau reflects the spirit and passion of Prosecutor Hilton, who was the founding leader of the bureau, and Deputy Attorney General Laura Magnone, who leads it today. The Human Trafficking Bureau's work sends a clear message across New Jersey that the Division of Criminal Justice will stop at nothing to investigate and pursue those that engage in these crimes. Thank you again to the team for their outstanding work on these cases.
Thank you, Director. It's now my privilege to introduce the Lieutenant Colonel of the New Jersey State Police, Phil Buck.
Thank you, General. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'd be remiss, right? All the leadership in the room and that are here with us today, Prosecutor, Director, General Plotkin, Chief Powell, thank you for allowing me to address why we are all here today. I'd be remiss if I didn't give a little historical about the Human Trafficking Unit and how it pertains to me and Major Wiserak and his command that's in the back of the room. A little over 2 years ago was my first venture into the investigations branch. I since departed and I'm now back for my second tour in the investigations branch. And that time frame is about as long as the Human Trafficking Unit has been independent as their standalone unit. And to the General's comments, the amount of impact that they are having on the criminal interdiction world here in our home state and throughout our region is unprecedented. You do more with less. We're working on the personnel issue, I promise you. So we're going to do all we can to continue to beef up the personnel within the Human Trafficking Unit. Your command works feverishly on just that. But to Major Wiserak, Captain Oriello in the back, Lieutenant Hornicle, Captain Hannafy, they are the operating command of the Bureau and the section that oversees the Human Trafficking Unit. The support and the leadership and the allowance that a unit like this receives from their command, thanks does not do it justice. And usually you see the results of these 2 cases. I also, when you see that type of connection between leadership and unit level personnel, I also want to give a quick idea of emotion and how that ties into cases like these 2 cases we're talking about today. I only live about 30 miles from Essex County right now. All right, so I live a lot farther from Cumberland County than I do from Essex County. All right, but the issues of human trafficking exist everywhere in between where I live today on the Jersey Shore and back home in Cumberland County. I'm born and raised in Bridgeton. My friends are still there. My parents are still there. I still travel up and down Laurel Street every holiday, every time we have a chance to go visit my parents. And this type of interdiction has been needed for years, for my entire life. So the impact that this is having on not just Bridgeton, but the entire county and the entire region of the East Coast, because of what's happening in Little Bridgeton, right, or in one county in New Jersey, is being heard all over the country. All over the country. I'm fresh off of an International Investigative Chiefs Conference about 3 weeks ago in Boston. And they want to know how we stood up a human trafficking unit so quickly. And I quickly leaned on the idea of the support that we get from the very top of our command structure all the way down to the unit level. It happens very naturally when the support and the energy and the passion exist at every level. So I know that there's leaders and there's folks in the room that are responsible for what we're all here for today, right? You've allowed, as we call in the law enforcement world, the boots on the ground to do what it is that they do, right? And all they need is support. All they need to know is that that energy and that effort that they're exuding every day, right? This is over a 2-year investigation, if I'm correct, Sarge. And I know that a lot more time went in than just 2 years on an investigation like the case down in Cumberland County. So we are all very thankful for your efforts, but I just want to make sure that I echo that thanks that we give to folks like you, Attorney General Placken, Major Weiserak, and your entire command, because without that support, without that push from both directions, today is not possible. So I'm personally thankful for what you're doing, and I promise you, you will continue to get the support that you need to move your interdiction efforts forward into the future. Thank you for your time, and again, keep up the good work and be safe out there. Thank you, Colonel.
Thank you, Colonel. It's now my privilege to introduce Acting Mercer County Prosecutor and Deputy Director of the Division of Criminal Justice, who oversees the Human Trafficking Unit, Teresa Hilton.
Thank you, General. Thank you for having me here. Good afternoon. We are fortunate here in New Jersey that we have an Attorney General and a First Assistant who have made human trafficking a priority, a crime that disproportionately impacts women and children. General Platkin has time and time again proven through his actions that he supports this work. The Division of Criminal Justice, Justice's Human Trafficking Unit, stood up by the Attorney General 2 years ago, and the group that, in partnership with investigators from the New Jersey State Police, dismantled these 2 human trafficking rings, has doubled its legal team since last year, allowing for more investigations and stronger prosecutions. While I currently serve on detail as Acting Mercer County Prosecutor, in my role as Deputy Director of DCJ, I proudly oversaw the expansion. The work of the Human Trafficking Unit is difficult, but I think I speak on behalf of my colleagues when I say announcements like today make the challenging efforts worth it. These cases are only possible because of the steadfast collaboration and intelligence sharing between partnering law enforcement agencies. 2 weeks ago, General Platkin and members of his leadership team met with law enforcement leaders from New Jersey and New York in preparation for the 2026 World Cup to discuss the necessary security measures required to ensure the event is safe for all. The discussions touched on crowd control and security for players and spectators alike, but much of the discussion also revolved around the significant increased potential for crimes, including human trafficking. The sad reality is that even at an event designed to celebrate the spirit of athletic competition, bad actors will see the World Cup only as an opportunity to profit from the vulnerabilities of others. We know that those who engage in human trafficking take advantage of events of this size, and today I want to expand upon the Attorney General's comments on the STALS initiative. As General Platkin mentioned earlier, he launched STALS for Safety last year in an effort to connect with victims during what may be one of their only moments away from their trafficker in a public restroom stall. STALS stands for Sanctuary from Trafficking, Awareness and Linkage to Law Enforcement and Services. Placed in public bathrooms across the state, our STALS posters include resources accessible by QR code, easily connecting victims with the New Jersey Human Trafficking Tip Line and the National Human Trafficking Hotline. The example of the STALS poster is right here before you. The posters, printed in both English and Spanish on one sheet, ask guiding questions designed to help potential victims identify that they may be in danger if they don't realize it. The posters also urge anyone with information about suspected human trafficking activity to make a report. If a business is interested in adding STALS posters to their restrooms or locker rooms, an order form is available on the STALS page on the Attorney General's website. These adhesive or laminated posters will be provided free of charge. They can also be downloaded from the Attorney General's website. We know victims of trafficking are often hidden in plain sight. With STALS, we are endeavoring to meet victims where they are and offer a path to safety. The International Labor Organization, a United Nations agency, estimated that in 2022 that 27.6 million people worldwide were victims of forced labor, bonded labor, forced child labor, sexual servitude, and involuntary servitude. That's 27.6 million people who will endure unspeakable emotional, physical, and psychological trauma. And while New Jersey is by no means immune to the horrors of human trafficking, but thanks to General Platkin, with the tireless service of the Division of Criminal Justice's Human Trafficking Unit and the New Jersey State Police, and our other law enforcement partners across the state, we will not stop. We will investigate, we will prosecute, and we will tirelessly advocate for victims and survivors. Thank you.
Thank you, Prosecutor Hilton. I just want to again underscore the tremendous work that was done here and the importance of these cases. Talking about, in one instance, girls as young as 13, 15. These are kids, often vulnerable kids, often kids who are dealing with a host of challenges. And to be preyed upon, as alleged here, by people who are treating them as property for profit should offend all of us. It offends me as the chief law enforcement officer, but also as a father and as a human being and as somebody who in my private legal capacity has represented victims of human trafficking and has seen the horrors that ensue for the rest of their life as a result of it. I want to thank Covenant House and our other service providers, as well as Viva, for the work that's being done to help victims and survivors of human trafficking get back on their feet and put pieces back together one day at a time. And again, I want to thank the dedicated members of the State Police and the Division of Criminal Justice for their tireless work that again has led to more cases being prosecuted by the Division of Criminal Justice in this year alone than in 4 years preceding it. I want to thank you all for being here. Sharon, are we taking any questions?
I just wanted to know a little bit about, if possible, talk about the police work involved. What are the things that has happened to get to this point?
Turn, Steve, anything you want?
I'm going to let Teresa speak to that a little bit as well, but I think one of the things that is a critical part of these investigations is making sure that our detectives are trained to deal with the sensitivities around working with victims of human trafficking so they can participate in these investigations. And that's something that Deputy Director Hilton has highlighted, both with her work with the State Police on this and also within DCJ. Teresa, you want to go beyond for that?
Yeah, I will echo what Director Furketic said. Yes, having learning how to work and speak with victims in a way that's meets them where they are is something that is learned for a lot of people. And so there's been an effort put into that so that they're more effective at communicating with victims, because this is a hard thing to talk about for somebody who survived something like this. And understanding what a survivor has experienced is important for proving the allegations, for charging the crimes. But in addition to that, there have been a lot of search warrants that have been used, a lot of, I don't want to go into too much detail, but investigating other corroborating pieces of information so that it doesn't all depend on what a survivor reports, but that it's corroborated by a bunch of additional evidence that's included search warrants, communication data warrants, surveillance. The whole gamut of investigative techniques available are often employed in these kind of cases. Does that answer your question?
I would just note the collaboration across agencies is really critical, both the agencies here as well as with other governmental agencies who deal with particularly our younger girls and children who have either displaced or who are availing themselves of other services. There are signs that they can often pick up of potential human trafficking victims that, because we are closely coordinating across all of our agencies, we're able to build more cases. And I think it's important to underscore for anybody out there engaged in this kind of conduct, we have folks here who are going to find you, and we're going to hold you accountable. And as you heard from the crimes as alleged today, some of them carry sentences as serious as life in prison. And we will pursue the maximum penalty we can obtain under the law when it comes to human trafficking cases.
General, how can we help you in the interfaith community to get this message out? This is very important, the age group that you're talking about, and that they can hide in the community and this activity go on in the interfaith community. How can we help?
Well, Pastor, I want to thank you as Chief Chaplain of the State Police and somebody who leads out in the community by example and coordinates in the city of Trenton some of the most robust interagency coordination that you'll see anywhere in the country. You're frankly doing a lot of that work already. But there's no question the reason why we have the Stalls campaign, the reason why we have Viva, the reason why we have trained in the state police and in the Division of Criminal Justice to be cognizant of the signs of human trafficking is because too often there's this sense, as I said, that this is a crime that only affects other people. The truth is human trafficking exists in all walks of life. It exists in every community. It exists in every race and social status. It exists throughout this country and certainly throughout our state. So the more partners we have, they can help us spread this message, certainly making Stalls posters available, helping us build relationships with people who may see, particularly youth who are victims of human trafficking, can see the signs of it and help us build trust with them. Part of the reason why these cases take so long, as has been discussed, is because you're dealing with victims who understandably have very, very broken levels of trust. And building that trust with them to trust law enforcement, to come forward and advocate on their behalf and seek justice on their behalf is a difficult and time-consuming process, as it must be. But these folks are committed to doing that work, and helping us continue to build those bridges is how we will do more of it.
Just confirming, these are two separate cases. There's
Yes.
no connection between the two. And the time frames for each one, over 2 years, I think?
Two separate cases.
Over the course of 2 years, yes.
I want to thank you all. I want to thank again the public servants who do this work every day, and thank the rest of you for being here.